joining me here today, it's the future, but it's here in the present. Of course, talking about Maycee Barber set to take on Montana De La Rosa. I believe it's on April 23rd. Maycee, how's it going?
It's doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I have to assume, though, with your nickname, you get a lot of stuff about the future, the past, and all that stuff. I assume people must come at you a lot with that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's been a lot of questions of like how it came about and why and if I'm ever going to change it, and I like it. I mean, I feel like it's going to stick for a long time, and yeah, I'm happy with it.
But if you're 40 and you're still going by the future, you aren't afraid like your coaches are gonna pull you to the sides, be like, "Hey, Maycee, maybe it's time. You don't have to be the past, but it's not really the future anymore."
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll come to that, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but for right now, it's like that's like 20 years from now. So, that's a long time
Yeah.
for me to like have to think about it.
I mean, do you ever sit down and think like, you started the UFC career at the right time? Because when you say 20 years from now, you could still be in the UFC in 20 years. Like, it's got to beat for the timeline. It's got to be pretty good.
As much as I love them, I hope I'm not still fighting in 20 years. If I'm
Fair
still
enough.
fighting in 20 years, I either did something really wrong or I just don't know how to save my money.
Fair enough. I mean, do you have that after career plan? I know some people talk about, I believe you're a big time agency now with Vayner Sports. Are you thinking about, the future, pardon the pun?
Yeah, I mean, it's always part of the plan, it's always in the process of being worked on. Um I have a great team of people behind me, trying to help me figure out, what's going to be next, what's this, but what's that, but in terms of fighting career, I don't really see like I'm not really trying to figure out what's next because I feel like I am still so new in the UFC, and um there's such a great company to be with and to fight under. So I've never even like really thought too much about, what would be next in terms of fighting, but just in terms of life and financially and brand wise and all of that, I'm always thinking of, how can I add to this? How can I improve it? How can I, add on to what's next? So
I feel like the fans do get mad at fighters that think like beyond fight wise, right? Like as soon as people set up a brand for something else, like, you don't really want to be a fighter. I have to think for you though, your thing must be completely toxic anytime you announce anything not fight related.
no, I mean, I haven't really announced too much not fight related aside from, the organizations that I've partnered with and helped with. I also don't do a lot outside of training and fighting because I know that that's how I'm going to build my career. So in terms of like movies and all of that, I haven't really tried or attempted to be in any of that kind of stuff. Mainly because one, I know that there's still a lot more for me to grow and learn, and just in terms of being able to ever have that kind of opportunity, but also because the entire reason why I would have that kind of opportunity is because of my success inside the cage. So for me at this age, it's kind of like focus on what you're good at and what you're trying to achieve, and the other things will come.
Fair enough. Let's talk about this fight a little bit with Montana De La Rosa. Feels like it's been a long time coming, right? You're supposed to fight before everybody's getting injured. Was this like the right fight to make next, or were you kind of hoping for that Blanchfield fight?
No, I mean, I was already scheduled to fight Montana, and that's the fight that I wanted. Blanchfield was just like a fill in for, when Montana got hurt and I was trying to fight still, then she was the only person that was available. So I said yeah to her because there's two people I think there was available, and we chose to go with Blanchfield. And then obviously I got hurt, and I wanted that Montana fight. I've been wanting that Montana fight for a while. It's a great fight for us. So that's the one I wanted. That was the one that was supposed to happen, and that's the one that the UFC wanted to make as well. So for me to be like, oh no, I wanted Blanchfield, that was never like part of the plan. That was just like, oh, we'll just go with this instead. Because life always throws bumps, and there's always twists and turns in the road. So that was kind of like, oh, we hit a bump and this is your detour. So the detour was to fight her, and then I ended up hitting another bump and getting injured. So now it's like back to the original plan because now we're both healthy and we're both ready to fight. So I feel like Montana was the right fight. It was the one that I was offered. It was the one that I said yes to, and it's the one that I wanted. So I feel like she feels the same way about that fight. So yeah, I'm excited.
Did I see it right that you both had the same injury? Obviously not at the same time, but like you guys pretty much had the same thing?
I believe so. I mean, I didn't talk to her a lot. The only thing that I did was I sent her a message, I think, when I heard that she was out. Obviously I know injuries suck. I tore my ACL, in a fight, and And now I have a lot more like sympathy or like I don't know if empathy is also the word for like someone else who is going through an injury and has to face surgery. So for her to have an injury is like I reached out and I was like, this sucks and I'm sorry. I hope you feel better soon. Like I hope you heal quick. And she I heard that she hurt her ankle and then literally like a few weeks after I tore my own ankle. So it was kind of like a coincidence and yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what she tore, but I know we both hurt our ankles. So
How was it mentally for you when you got injured? Obviously, you have the big recovery. You think about your fight careers. You want to get back out in the cage. How were you going through all that mentally?
I feel like I was already prepared, like this was not like a severe injury. My biggest injury in my, the whole one where like I really think about my career and I really think about like all of that was more when I tore my ACL. When I tore my ACL, I was facing a major surgery and I was facing a whole year layoff, and not only a whole year layoff, but like you can't train at all for a while and you're on crutches and you're on this, and like that was a major like wow, like this is a whole journey back. And that just kind of made you think of like your motivation and what's next and all of that. For this one, it was kind of like I was in the gym and I was wrestling and I was in a position and it was the starting position and we fell the wrong way and it snapped and instantly I was like, this is not supposed to happen. Like this is not part of the plan and it's not supposed to happen again. And I thought I was gonna end up having like I thought I broke it and I was gonna be in a cast. But turns out I tore it. And I thought as soon as they said tore it, then I thought surgery. And then they were like, we're gonna have to put in the splint and all of that stuff. But when they, it didn't heal nearly as fast as we wanted it to, but at the same time, it was only weeks. It was like 8 weeks rather than a whole year, 12 months. That's a long time. So this one was not like an injury where I was sitting there thinking about, oh, what's going to be the difference thing in my career and all of that. Like that didn't change the path. That didn't change like too much because I was still able to train, as soon as I was able to like run, I was jogging, and as soon as I was doing strength and conditioning like the entire time. And then just like in terms of like boxing and stuff, as soon as I was able to do that, then I added that in. So it wasn't really like, oh, you're not allowed to do anything forever. So it wasn't like a major career break, I guess.
Speaking of breaks and ankles and stuff, we saw this very popular, very intelligent tweet on Twitter where a very high level fan, I guess, he put that, Beneil Dariush could have still fought Islam Makhachev despite breaking his ankle because every fighter is injured. And it's simply that you don't want it bad enough. For you in that situation where you literally fought, with the ACL torn. I mean, what do you think when you hear something like that? That's got to be just the most ridiculous thing ever.
I feel like it's a time and place kind of thing because, like, obviously everybody's different. Everybody kind of has their own pain tolerance and body, but I guess for me, when I think about it, is for me to have fought on a torn ACL like that, I didn't just like tear my ACL before my fight and have time to recover and all of that. And like there were some times like so when I tore my ACL, it was like very unstable. But then I had so much adrenaline that I didn't feel it until the second round. And then the second round, then it started hurting really bad. And then the third round, I was like in a lot of pain. But then like 2 days after, I was in a wheelchair and my brother was because we were going to Hawaii. So I was being pushed around and we didn't have crutches. And I laid because I knew I was having surgery and they had to wait for the swelling to go down. So for that, like they made me just like chill. And so I chilled on in the bed for a while. But by the end of like the 9 days, I felt like I could walk upstairs. I felt like I could run. I felt like I could like move. And the pain wasn't there unless you twist the wrong way. And so that's when it was like super excruciatingly painful. And that's when the surgeon's like, well, you risk tearing literally everything else if you step the wrong way or if you do something the wrong way. So for a fighter to go into a fight like injured and knowing you're injured, I guess it's kind of like the level of what type of injury, how bad is it? What's the pain like? Like what would be the process if you didn't let it heal versus letting it heal, all of that. And if it's not like something where you can make it that much worse and you can tolerate the pain, then I say, like it'd be something where, you have to weigh your options. My last fight, I went in with like a busted up hand, and I just got a cortisone shot in my hand before the fight. And so like those are the things where, you know, you weigh your injury and you weigh like the options. But I don't feel like anybody should have that say over any other fighter's career other than that fighter specifically. Because you don't know what's in their mind, you don't know what's in their heart, you don't know what their, you know, financial situation is, what their, you know, what their goals are, anything. So that's completely like up to each fighter in their own, you know, situation.
What happens with the commission and the cortisone shot? Like, are they cool with that? Is that something you guys have to kind of sneak? Like, that seems to me like it could be a very dangerous thing if done wrong.
I feel like it depends on what type of injury it is, you know, and what the x-rays, MRIs, stuff like that. I don't remember exactly like what I have, but I know that there is like certain instances where like if you're actually hurt and you have a cortisone shot to mask it, but then you end up like severely hurt, then yeah, they could probably like it's frowned upon, I'm sure. Um I don't know. I've never really had to deal with it too much until my last fight when I was like I got cortisone injected in my hand like twice, I think. So I got it a couple weeks before the fight and then again right before the fight, like the
Did
day before.
did the fight end up making it worse, or were you able to sort of get out of that okay?
No, I mean, right after that, I mean, I got PRP injection in my hand after that. So after the fight, I went and got PRP, and it was like it helped it heal so much better. Because like cortisone, obviously, it doesn't help heal. It actually does like the opposite. It doesn't really help it, but it kind of breaks down some things. But it completely masks the pain. So on a pain perspective, it's great. But then like PRP on the other hand hurts like crazy to have done. I literally was sitting there when I tore my ankle. I had PRP in my ankle too. And I was sitting there and I was crying. Like I was bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
For one, when I did my hand, and then for two, when I did my ankle. So I got PRP in like my front knuckle and then my other one. And I actually had it in both hands. And I was like tears down my face, and the doctor's apologizing to me. Like he's like, I'm so sorry. But it also made my hands heal like so much better. And it like, you know, it makes them heal so much faster.
Did all of those injuries that kind of hurt your development? Because we know right now it's an important part of learning things and training and everything. Not being able to train correctly, like, did you feel like that hurt your development at all?
No, I mean, I feel like if you're always trying to become the like a high level athlete, like there's always something that could be improved. So something like a hand injury can force you to work more on your footwork, can force you to work more on your head movement, can force you to work more on like something else that you are probably neglecting when you're completely healthy. You know, like I just feel like it helps you really focus a lot more on other things in a different way and from a different perspective, you know, because like we always have a lot of times you have a perspective of a healthy athlete versus, you know, someone who is compromised a little bit. So like, say you get compromised in a fight. Well, now you have to learn how to fight compromised, you know? So I feel like if you use it as the right way, it can become something that could be beneficial, you know, and not always like just like a hindrance because as fighters, we are like always injured.
I
We
mean,
literally are like getting punched in the head and thrown around and all of that stuff on a daily basis. So it's gonna happen.
has there ever been a case where you get into a fight 100% healthy? Because I feel like people don't really talk about that. Like a few people are like, "Oh, we're always injured," but what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. You know, like there's a difference between, oh, I have some bumps and bruises, like, you know, something minor, like for instance, my hand. Like my hand was hurting, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm severely injured, you know? But at the same time, it's like I knew adrenaline would take over, but just for like that fight week, just the peace of mind to have like that little bit of like cover up, then you can like put it away. You know, you put it aside versus like being injured. If I had broke my hand, like one of my first fights, I think it was my professional debut. Um, I was just being silly and messing around in my backyard when I used to live in Colorado, and I was doing backflips, and I was doing backflips off of things, and I over rotated and I actually broke my hand in 3 places. and that was like 7 weeks, I think 7 or 8 weeks before my pro debut. And so I had a brace. Like I didn't even go to a real doctor. I went to a chiropractor at first because they do X-rays, and he was like, "Yeah, your hand's broken." And I just thought it was like in one place, so I put a brace on it, and I was like, "All right, I'm good." I told my coach, I'm like, "We trained with one hand for a while, and then after that, I had to get cleared because like they make you do like clearance, like medical stuff." And so I got another x-ray at an actual doctor's office. And I was like, yeah, so I broke my hand like months and months and months ago. And I was just kind of wondering what the status is. And they're like, it's 70% healed, or it was like 75% healed. But they're like, you have 3 cracks. You have one here, one here, and one here.
Oof.
And I was like, oh. So like there's like things like that, like little things where you're bumped up, or I feel like a lot of fighters are going to go in not 100% because of the nature of the sport. But I feel like I have gone in with just like bumps and bruises, but you're training, and that whole like last week where you're cutting weight and you're letting your body recover is when those bruises and stuff are kind of given the chance to like really heal. But it's a fine line of training hard and pushing it to the limit without actually getting injured.
So getting back to this fight with Montana, like, does it help that you've been booked with her in the past? Because I assume you get to watch tape and stuff like that, or you've worked on, beating her in the past. Is that giving you some kind of advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working all the time to beat everybody, to beat the next girl that I'm given. So in terms of being scheduled with her before and being scheduled with her again, I mean, it's just kind of like a cool, finally, it's about time. But in terms of like film and all of that, I kind of leave that up to the coaches and all of us as a team. But we're going to be prepared for whoever that the UFC has decided to put me up against. And, when we say yes, it's like, cause we know that we're ready that day. The rest of it is just kind of like, refining the tools and refining, the nutrition and the cut and all of that. So it's just like putting like the additions onto the base.
So what does a win here do for you? I mean, you get to 2 in a row. I know at one point there was talk of youngest champ and everything. Does that kind of put you on the right path to where you want to be in your career?
Yeah, I mean, it just continues me on the path of like obviously towards more wins. Um, and just continued success. Like I'm 23, I have so much success already, and I just want to keep continuing that success and in and outside the cage. And um obviously the win that I get on April 23rd will be just like, another step on that ladder up to the top, and then we'll see what's next.
Do you feel like you have something to prove heading into this fight? Like I know in the past, you're fighting through the injuries, even the last fight and stuff like that. The fans, they always seem to, come at you for everything. You feel like you have something to prove in this fight?
I feel like I have a lot of haters.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a lot of them. A lot of them are always like hating on either my fights or, the fact that I punched air in my last, not my last fight, but the fight before. It's honestly like I just try to tune that out. I know there's a lot of people behind me that support me, but there's always a lot of haters, and that's one thing that like a lot of fighters, like female friends and fighters that I have, are always laughing at. They're like, my most like their best pastime is to read my comments, and I'm like, that is great, like thanks. um but I mean, honestly, like in terms of proving, the only thing I have to prove is to myself is just continuing on that path of success. Like just continuing to prove to myself that I am amazing and I can do amazing things.
Are you one of those people? Do you look at the comments and sort of think like, I could kick every single one of these people's asses that are talking to me? Like, do you have a moment where it's like, I really wish I could put my hands on these people and we can see who's the future and who's not?
No, not really. I mean, there's only been like one time where I like really let it get to me. And I think it was like right after I got injured, or maybe it was like right after something that I posted or I did. And there was just like so much hate, and I was just in a mental place where I was just like, I just don't want to deal with it. And it made me cry. Um, but I mean, I've only had like one of those moments where I really let comments get to me. Aside from that, my mom, my dad, like my dad especially, he always taught me like, don't read below the line. He's like, don't read below the line. That's all you do is don't read below it. And so I just, really tried to, stand up to that is don't read the below the line. Like what other people say is like what they are showing that they have nothing better to do than to type and hate on everybody else. Um, and what we do is as professional fighters is pretty freaking incredible, you know, like we're literally getting into a cage with another human knowing that that other person is trying to do as much damage and inflict
Yeah.
as much pain on you as humanly possible until some other human decides to say that's enough and like okay that's enough suffering, you're good, you know, like so like that takes a lot of like guts and a lot of, you know, courage to just like voluntarily jump in there and do that, and it takes a whole special set of skills to be able to do that. So like when someone like hates on other people's posts or comments on other people's fights, is it's kind of like, yeah, well, good luck ever stepping in that opportunity. And like it's not that like simple to just be like, yeah, I'll just run and jump in a cage. It
Yeah.
literally is like it turns your stomach a little bit, you know, but like if you're prepared, you know, it's one of those things where it's a great thing, but a lot of people that are talking on social media and talk and hate on us is people that will never ever ever understand what it's like to go through what we do, and that's okay. You know, it's okay that they don't ever understand it, and if their little bit of piece of living vicariously through us is hating on what we do, then go for it.
I feel like it's important to talk about it because a lot of people they feel like they're kind of insulting a brand, right? You like if you go after a football player, he's probably not going to see it, but fighters they're so accessible, and then people they love coming after them. I mean, where are you at now mentally in terms of dealing with that? Does it make it so you can't really scroll through social media the same way?
No, it doesn't really like honestly, it doesn't. I know that a lot of my comments are hate, and that's okay. I honestly like I posted something earlier and I totally forgot that I even posted it. Like that's how I post is like if I'm posting about a company, you know, if I'm posting with Monster, if I'm posting with the new company that I'm with, Born Primitive, or if I'm posting a picture of coaches, it's honestly because like at that moment, I am truly appreciating the people that I'm working with. You know, like if I post something about monsters, like I truly appreciate the support of the company. Or Born Primitive, I truly appreciate the support of the company. I'm like, look at this, it's really cool. I get to share with other people this. But that was for me. That was like the moment where I was like, I enjoyed them and I enjoyed like our connection together. But past that, it's like I'm just sharing it so other people can see that I appreciate their,
Yeah.
you know, support and their love. And other than that, it's like I don't really care what other people think because that's I showed my opinion. Like that was it. I love that I work with these people, and here you do what you want with that. You know, you can either show love or you can hate on it. But if you're hating on it, I'm not going to see it.
What's the worst social media platform for that? I know Twitter gets toxic real fast. Instagram, everybody talks about the dick pics in the DMs. Which platform has been the worst one? Or Facebook, if you have a middle-aged lady while she's cleaning her oven talking shit to you, what's the worst one for you?
Honestly, when I post stuff, I don't really go on Twitter unless I'm watching the fights and I want to like try to post and see if it pops up on the
Oh,
TV. So when I go on Twitter, it's usually because I'm doing that. But when I'm on Instagram, Instagram has that cool way that you can like post to Twitter and post to Facebook.
right. Yeah.
And so I usually just turn those both on. And then when I make a post on Instagram, it goes to Twitter, it goes to Facebook. And I don't really turn on Facebook or Twitter. Like I don't really go
Yeah.
on those. Like I don't know what's on there. Like if there's a comment on there, I've never seen it. Um but I mean, like, obviously, like, I'm starting to build my TikTok up more too. So far everybody's been like really good on there, and it's just kind of like me learning how to use the platform and learn how to make videos and edit videos. But I feel like TikTok is kind of like that new, like, I haven't seen any haters much at all on there. But I feel like obviously I see the most haters on Instagram, but because that's the platform that I use to post to other platforms as well. So I guess the answer to your question is Instagram.
There we go.
That was a long answer, but that would be the answer.
No, it's the right answer because we see different people that are like, yo, I'm not using Twitter because they're like, every time I go on there, you guys shit on me. So what's the point? And then,
Yeah,
I,
there's a lot of
yeah,
hate, yeah. And then also, like, I feel like Instagram, like, people say they're like, "Oh, well, you could turn off your comments if you want." And I'm just like, "Nah, just let people do what they are." You know, like, if someone wants to hate on your comment and they hate on your stuff also, I feel like it's gonna show who they are to
right.
everybody else. And so, like, their friends might see it. Or if they create a fake account, then their friends are never going to see it. But then again, nobody knows who they are. So nobody really cares. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's just kind of where people show their true colors.
It makes me think of the when people say like, "Oh, you're really showing your ass." Like that's exactly what it is. You see on the comments, and then you go and it's like it's weird. It's like a middle-aged guy with sunglasses and a goatee with his kids, and it's like I can't believe you're on my Instagram talking shit. Like you have a whole family. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Obviously not focused on the right things.
No, for sure. Listen, one last question for you. 'Cause I've kept you way longer than I normally keep people, so I
It's all good.
apologize for that. But one last question, easy one, basic, a little bit boring for some people. But how do you see yourself getting your hand raised against De La Rosa?
Just total domination, like I've been really working on just like overall focus, overall pressure, and overall dominance. So, um, just it's hard to like tell you exactly because
Yeah.
nobody has like an exact plan, and if you do, it's never gonna go the way you plan it exactly. But I just know that I'm gonna walk out with my hand raised, and I'm gonna go out there and dominate.
All right, well, there we go. We look forward to it. People really love those quotes where it's like, I'm gonna go out there and kick their ass, and it makes all the headlines. But nobody knows. But listen, thank you for the time.
Yeah, and then sometimes I mean, it's good. It gets them like, like they blow themselves up, and I'm never gonna shy away from that, like I've
Yeah,
always been known for someone who just says what they think, and I still feel that way, like I do plan on going out there and beating her up and dominating and walking out with my hand raised, but at the same time it's like if I give you a detail by detail, it's never gonna be like, oh
no,
yeah,
it's a lot of
go out
pressure
there and
because
throw her
yeah,
down, armbar her, and then punch her, like it never goes that way. So I'm not gonna give you details.
yeah. No, but it's a lot of pressure because I've heard people say, if I tell you I'm gonna knock him out in the first round, I spend the entire first round thinking like, fuck, I haven't knocked him out yet.
I don't really think that way, but yeah, maybe a little bit. I just more so
Yeah,
just want to finish her.
perfect. All right, well, thank you so much, Macy. I really appreciate it.